Here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here this morning. It's a blessing to bring you a contemplative meditation. I'm reading today from Roger Teal's book, This Life is Joy. And in perusing it to find a reading for today, I realized I really want to read this book again. It's really good. So I offer that as my recommendation. After the reading, there'll be a minute of silence so you can take this into your heart, and then Jackson will lead us into the invocation. So right now, I offer you, or I suggest that you just settle into your chair or your mattress, if that's where you happen to be, and breathe into your center. Calm yourself and know that right here, right now, is where you are, where you need to be, and where you should be. Whenever we shine our light into another's life, it leaves a timeless mark, a lasting radiance. Love and light are real. Everything else is illusion. It harkens to an ageless lesson. We all need each other's light, more than we may choose to admit. For light shared, stirs up the embers of compassion, the greatness of spirit that is everyone's true gift to this world.
I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright.
And take a breath into that knowing that you are a light of the world, that you are a light to each one of us, to your family, to your community. Each one of us radiates light and love everywhere we go, and I am so honored to know all of you individual lights. You enrich my life, you enrich my very being, and I honor you and bless you. And I know that as we come together on Sunday mornings to share our light, to share our hopes, our dreams, and our problems, I know that we are supported and we are guided into the right path, the right way of being. As we reach higher each day, reach higher and deeper into our very being to tap even greater light, even greater love. I know that this is our path, this is our way, and we are all blessed in this work. And so I simply let this gathering unfold in its right and perfect way, knowing that Dr. Lockard will bring to us a new way of being, a new way of seeing. Another trip up the spiral of our consciousness. And so I simply let it be. And so it is.
You are a light, you are a light, are a light in this world. You are a light, you are a light, you are a light in this world. And you shine, and you shine, and you shine so bright. And you shine, and you shine, and you shine so bright.
Thank you, Susan and Jackson. So this morning we have a real treat. I know that you all read all of the particulars in Dr. Jim's bio that I have put in the newsletter, etc. And but I wanted to share with you that my awareness of this man is that he is an excellent teacher, an excellent speaker, an excellent mentor. He's been part of the leadership for as long as I've known him, I think. And he has a great sense of humor, sort of a wry sense of humor. But what I really know about him is that he is an honorable man. And so I invite you to change your screen to speaker view, and I'm going to drop our PowerPoint so that he can share. And so change your screen to speaker view, and let's enjoy and experience Dr. Jim Lockard. Thank you for being here, Jim.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's so nice to see all these beautiful faces. We do manage to find community online, don't we? And I think that's been one of the revelations of this past year or so, when so much has been up in the air, and there's so little certainty going around these days. I do want to start sharing my screen, and give me a second here, and I want to start. Whoops. Yes. Okay, it's not going to let me do that. This is since I won't be here next Sunday, I thought I would show a picture of my pet. This is Simone. She came into our lives a few months ago. She's a rescue, and she's slim because she's French. So just so we understand that, and she's been a delight in our lives. So she was rescued, picked up off the street, and a week later had kittens when she was about a year old at that point. And so we waited until the kittens were weaned, and then we adopted Simone here. So she's been a great blessing in our lives. So my topic is going to be on the purpose of the science of mind. And I apologize, my bar at the bottom of my computer is not letting me access the, oh, wait a minute, I can go to slideshow. It's a little workaround from the beginning, and there's Simone, okay. I always like to, when I'm invited to guest speak, at least do something about going back to the basics in a sense, or reminding us of our legacy, of our purpose, and so forth. Now, I know you all have a really good teacher, and Reverend Angelica and I go back quite a ways. We won't say just how many years, but we came into ministry around the same time, and we've seen the organization and the movement change tremendously. And we have both found places, I think, in the world that we really love to be. My story is in 2015, I left active, what you might call active pulpit ministry, and my wife Dorianne and I set out on 3 years of full-time travel, which we didn't know that's what it was going to be, but that's what it turned into. And until we settled here in France, and we've been here now for a little over 3 years. So it's been an adventure, and it's been a great joy. But I do miss my Centers for Spiritual Living community, and I visit as often as I can, and online and in person. In fact, I will be at the convention in January down in the desert, in Palm Springs area. So I'm looking forward to that. So, when we talk about our teaching, and we've all, been in, maybe you just showed up this week, or maybe you've been around for a few decades, but every now and then it's not a bad idea to review, or to hear for maybe the first time, sort of, what is the purpose of this teaching? Quite often we think it's about getting everything we want, right? Just being able to, it's about manifesting. I want more money. I want a different spouse. I want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, whatever it may be. And occasionally the voice of God chimes in and says, oh, really? Is that really what you want? Because it's interesting, because in the textbook, Dr. Holmes says you can have everything you want. And then a few pages later says you can't have everything you want. And people think that's a contradiction, but it really isn't, because it's based upon, I can only have what I can actually envision, actually bring into being, and ultimately that which serves myself and serves a larger purpose. So we may start out, when your Science of Mind 101 is, let me demonstrate a better parking place, let me get, take care of the problem of having too much month at the end of the money, let me deal with issues in my life, maybe a physical healing issue or something like that. And those are all important. It's important that we be able to manage our everyday existence without having to put all of our effort into that. But the reason that we want to get to that level of being sort of in charge of our lives is so we can put energy into what really matters, which is the deeper mystical aspects of who and what we are. Who have we come here to be, in a mystical sense, in a sense of our own divinity? Dr. Holmes said, religious science is an educational, it should be an educational teaching as well as a religious movement. Oh, no, that's right, actually, is an educational as well as a religious movement, and endeavors to coordinate the findings of science, religion, and philosophy to find a common ground upon which the true philosophic conclusions, spiritual intuitions, and mystic revelations may agree with the cold facts of science, thus producing fundamental conclusions, the denial of which is not conceivable to a rational mind. And he goes on. It goes without saying that such conclusions cannot contradict each other. No system of thought can stand which denies human experiences. No religion can remain vital which separates humanity from divinity. Nor can any science which denies the spontaneous appearance of volition and will in the universe maintain its position. So here he's getting to the very basics of what is the nature of reality, what is the nature of who and what we are. And I think he's talking here about the idea of existing within the realm of a universal and infinite spirit. What does that really mean? I mean, the idea of an infinite, it's something that we as human beings can't really grasp fully, because we have access to the infinite, but we are not the totality of the infinite ourselves. But we can get the idea that, there can't be an infinite and something else. So if spirit is infinite, then everything that exists, every possible form, every possible thing of any kind must be part of it. So sometimes we feel distanced from our idea of God. And sometimes we get angry at God, and we blame God for our life not going well, or for injustice in the world, or whatever the case may be. And in those cases, we have to come to the realization at some point that we have a limited idea of God, that we're projecting our own human nature onto the nature of spirit, which is what we would do naturally anyway. How do you think people started thinking of God as an old man sitting in heaven, or God has been outpictured in many, many ways, all of which are projections of human consciousness, because they're all limited. The idea of having an idea of God that we can contain is by its nature too limited. That's why in the Jewish tradition, you don't even say the name of God, because just naming it limits it. So how do we come to terms with thinking of a finite nature from an infinite nature from a finite perspective? And that's the challenge of spiritual growth. So Dr. Holmes touches on this, and he's talking here about some very deep realities. He said, we don't deny the physical realities. We don't deny what science shows us. We don't deny our own experience. But we have to realize that it's in a much larger container, and it may take on different shapes or different aspects as we change our perspective. You know, if you think about remember being in the first grade, and if you were like me, it was a real challenge, learning letters, learning numbers, and I didn't have that really too much before I got to first grade. In my generation, kids didn't really go to kindergarten or anything like that. So first grade was my first experience of formal teaching, and it was a real challenge. You know, I'd sit there trying to make my letters and trying to do it right and stay within the lines of the paper they would give us to draw letters on. And I know my tongue would be out because I was really straining and trying hard, and that was a big deal for me. But then when I was in the fifth grade, I'd look at the first graders like, oh, that's nothing. You guys are just dummies. You know, why are you even struggling with that? When do you get to the fifth grade? That's really tough. And so it goes. And then the eighth grader talks to the fifth grader, and the high school graduate talks to the eighth grader, and so forth, right? So that's the way life works. We hopefully, as we learn, we continue to expand our perspective and deepen our ability to perceive. And what was a challenge at one point becomes part of our routine, or becomes something we no longer need to do because we've outgrown it. So it's the same way with our spiritual development. I think it's important that little children get the idea of a tangible aspect of God, or a tangible idea of God, because that's what they need to understand. They need the physical representation. They need a statue to look at, or something like that. As we grow, hopefully we begin to realize that the statue is simply a symbol of something that is much deeper. And we don't really focus on the statue anymore. The statue, the symbol, takes us to the deeper reality. And that's why, one of the reasons why Dr. Holmes was against, or not in favor of, having statues and having symbols of it to any great extent in our spiritual communities. He wanted us to go beyond that, to work in the realm of mind and to work in the deeper levels. Okay. He says, one cannot be a good student of the science of mind who is filled with fear and confusion. Well, I have to say, about once a week, I cannot be a good student of the science of mind. Maybe, it used to be 7 times a week. Now it's down maybe once or twice. But, there are times when you can't get clear, when you're filled with fear and confusion, when you can't know the truth for yourself. And that's when we would call a practitioner. You see, that's when we would ask someone else to know the truth on our behalf, knowing we're all working within the one mind. He goes on to say he must keep himself in a state of equilibrium, in a state of poise, peace, and confidence, in a state of spiritual understanding. By spiritual understanding, it is not meant anything strange or unnatural, but merely that the belief in goodness must be greater than any apparent manifestation of its opposite. Now, Dr. Holmes tends to take a lot of words to say things that are very simple. So you could take that last sentence and say, I am not moved by appearances, therefore appearances move. You see, my spiritual understanding is that if there's a difficulty in front of me, that I must learn to see through it to a greater truth, and focus with intentionality on bringing that truth into manifest form. So, for example, the illness that I may be experiencing, I need to be able to come to see that as a temporary condition, a limited condition, and beyond it, beneath it, within it, however you want to view that, is a perfect expression of me as a physical being. And again, I may need to call upon a practitioner or someone else to help me see that from time to time. He goes on to say in the same quote, what the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to have him repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. Okay, and I think that last sentence is kind of a caution to us ministers. Because sometimes we teach the truth that we're not practicing, to be honest, from time to time, it sort of happens. You look at your lesson plan for that week and say, oh my God, that's my biggest problem right now. So it reminds us constantly. That's one of the reasons I wanted to be a teacher of the science of mind, because I recognized that I needed to be immersed in this all the time in order for me to do the work necessary to have it transform my life. So what he's alluding to here, not alluding to, what he's specifically saying, in fact, we need to be convinced of our spiritual nature, and we need to have our experience reflect that nature and to be very attentive to when it doesn't. And rather than looking outside ourselves for when things don't work out, we need to look within and say, what needs to be called forth from within me in order to bring a resolution to this particular problem or challenge or issue? We look within for our truth. We look within for what is ready to emerge from us. I happen to believe, I'm going to come out just for a minute here. I happen to believe that when you have a problem, has anyone ever had a problem? Just, put your hand up if you have. Okay, a couple of you have. When you have a problem, I don't know how they emerge. I think it, to some degree, I've called that into my life, or I've just found it in my life. But the reason it's there, or the potential opportunity that it presents, is to call forth something greater from within me that up to now I haven't been expressing. Maybe it's compassion, maybe it's strength, maybe it's love, or some positive quality that I've been withholding or hasn't been called forth necessarily into my life. So I opened my door one day and there's a big, smelly, stinking problem sitting there. And I have a couple of choices there. One thing I can do is try to get rid of it and pretend it's not there. Did I ever do that? Oh, I don't see anything. It's not there. Everything's fine. That's called being in denial. It doesn't work. Another thing you can do is try to blame someone. Who put this here? It must be the kids. The kids probably put it here, or my neighbor put it here, or the government put it here, or somebody put it here. And, that may be true. Someone else may have put it there, but it's on your doorstep. Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, talks about the idea of the spiritual warrior. That the spiritual warrior says yes to whatever is in front of him or her. Because if it's in my life, it's mine. So instead of practicing avoidance, we practice engagement. And we practice engagement so that it can call forth from us what is needed in this moment that maybe we just haven't expressed before. It's irritating to have problems. I mean, I don't particularly seek them out. By the way, when you seek out a problem, it's called an adventure. Okay, so there is a positive term for those who are seeking out problems, or another way of putting it is being miserable on purpose. So, we say, like, if you're scared of roller coasters and you get on the roller coaster anyway, that you're going to be miserable on purpose because you're seeking that feeling, and you're terrified while you're on the ride and so forth. But when some kinds of problems come into our lives, we act like, no, we're not going to get on the roller coaster. See? But when the problem shows up and it's yours, there's not much else you can do with it, because ignoring it generally doesn't make it go away. And ignoring it, even if it does just dissolve on its own, which can happen, you lose an opportunity for personal growth. So that challenge in your life right now, whatever it is, and we probably, in these times, we've got challenges very close to home in our own individual selves. We've got family challenges, we've got community challenges, we've got, all the way out in concentric circles, all the way out to the planet and climate change and a pandemic and the other kinds of things going on. So there's a lot to be concerned about. How much of that can I engage? And I don't think we have to engage everything, but we definitely have to engage the stuff that's touching us in our own lives. We definitely have to allow that which is being called forth to express. And I know it's a big pain in the butt, but we got to do it. That's just the way it is. The science of mind is about learning to live with the pain in your butt. So you can write that down. Okay, back to Ernie. So we have this technology that we call spiritual mind treatment or prayer treatment, and that's the main thing he taught. He talked about meditation, but Holmes never really taught meditation in the Eastern sense. Meditation, I think, is a critical practice to be doing, but to me, meditation is the listening half of the conversation. It's getting good to listen to what's going on within you. But prayer treatment is the speaking part of the conversation. You're speaking to yourself. Treatment is to treat yourself. Okay, that's really important to understand. I'm not asking God to change. When I was a little boy, I was raised a Catholic, and when you get to an age where you're in church and you're hearing the what's going on, and you're in school. And I was in Catholic school, and I learned if you want something, ask God for it. So I wanted a red bicycle. And I would get down on my knees faithfully every night and ask God, as part of my prayers, I'd say my Hail Marys and my Our Fathers, and I'd ask God for this red bicycle. And my expectation was that God would either say yes or no. I was hoping for a yes, but they told me that sometimes God says no to your prayers. But I wasn't going to change. I was just asking God for something. And so I just figured, God would do something differently than it was a he then to me. God would do something differently today than what he did yesterday, or do something differently tomorrow than he would do today. And I would just sit there and maybe, I'd get up in the morning and go see if there was a bike. And what I learned later when I went into Science of Mind is God has already given that bike. God has already provided whatever it is we seek, but it exists in the realm of potential. And our job, my job, your job, is to bring things, ideas, possibilities from the realm of potential into the realm of actualization. So my job is to actualize what already is. Remember, spirit's an infinite. You can't add anything to an infinite. So whatever you seek is already within the infinite in some form. It might be in pure potential. It might exist somewhere and be somewhere else, that you don't have access to, but maybe it gets delivered to you somehow. We don't need to even understand the mechanism. See, as my teacher used to say, I'm in marketing, God's in manufacturing. So all I have to do is convince myself of the truth of something, and it shows up. It is provided, whether that's a healing, whether that's something I'm seeking to make my life more pleasurable, something I'm seeking to be a part of that is more meaningful in my life, whatever it is. So spiritual mind treatment is a way that we create that consciousness of receptivity so that actualization process can occur. Okay, so Holmes said this about treatment. He said many things, but he said this. Effective mental treatment is propelled by a consciousness of love and a realization that the creative spirit is always at work. The practitioner does not feel that he or she must compel the force to work. It is the nature of the creative power to take form, and it is the nature of people to use it. Okay? So we're talking about a very natural process. That's how we exist. We exist, but we're always actualizing something. The problem is a lot of us are actualizing stuff we don't want, or stuff that's coming from through a limited consciousness and therefore shows up in a limited fashion. So again, going back to the earlier saying about what we need is spiritual conviction and the experience of it. This is the vehicle to do that, is to create affirmative prayers that guide our consciousness toward an acceptance of greater good over time. Okay. Now, demonstration is what happens when your treatments are answered. Okay, so a demonstration is positive. So the possibility of demonstrating does not depend on environment, condition, location, personality, or opportunity. It depends upon our belief and our acceptance and our willingness to comply with the law through which all good comes. Okay, I'm going to come out again. This is really important because as I'm doing my treatment, I'm thinking, well, I want that red bicycle. I'm seeing myself riding the red bicycle, but if my dad won't let me have it, I won't get it. So what I'm doing there in my treatment is I'm not treating properly. I'm adding a conditional thought to the treatment. Now, you're going to have conditional thoughts. You're going to have doubts. You're going to have questions. You're going to say, what if it doesn't work? But you don't want to do that when you're treating. You want the treatment to be as pure and clear as possible. So if here's what I should do. Here's what I do. If I'm treating and I have a conditional thought, like, what if my dad won't buy it? I stop and I treat to know that I can trust the law. Then I go back and do the treatment. See, it's like a technique. You want to train your mind to be focused. It's sort of like a way to, if you meditate, you learn to go into a meditative state. One thing I used to do is, like a 30-second shot clock they have at a basketball game, and it's the numbers 3-0 and then 2-9 and 2-8. You count back. And as soon as your mind wanders, you go back to 30. See, and start over until you can keep your mind focused on the clock for the whole 30 seconds. See, because training your mind is like training a puppy. Okay, if you want to train up, now there's a couple ways to do it. If you want to train a puppy not to get on the sofa, let's say, and the puppy jumps, being a puppy, jumps up on the sofa, and you can smack the puppy. So I can beat myself. Oh crap! Look what I'm doing. I'm being conditional again. I can diminish myself and beat myself up as I'm failing to concentrate, right? But you take the puppy down and you put him down. And the puppy gets back up and you take the puppy down and you put him down. And the puppy gets back up and you take him back down and you put him down. And then the puppy doesn't get up and you go, good dog. See? It's all positive reinforcement. There's no criticism. It's just take the no. I don't want you there. I want you here. So it's the same thing with your own mind. If you're trying to meditate or you're trying to do effective treatment, when you stray and you kind of wander off, you just bring yourself back gently. Start over. See? Bring yourself back and start over. And what you'll find is for the first few weeks of that, it'll be a pain in the butt because you'll just say, am I ever going to get through one of these without straying? And the answer is yes, if you practice that kind of discipline. Over a period of time, you'll develop a new habit. That's all we're seeking to do, is develop a new habit. Now, habits are not that easy to change or to create. It takes, a while. Like how many of you have gym memberships you've never used? Don't raise your hands. I don't want it. It's very embarrassing, right? So when I signed up for the gym, I used to go, and I was so grateful to the 97% of people who sign up for a gym membership and only go 3 times because they were paying for me to go. See, if they didn't pay their dues, it would have been too expensive for me to go to the gym. So it's the same thing. How many of us have the discipline and the intentionality to stick with a practice so that we get the habitual form correct in our lives? And then once you have that, you can kind of let go. Once you have the habit in place, you'll do it automatically. It's just getting through that training. It's like the first grade of learning to treat or learning to meditate. The first grade is a struggle and your tongue sticking out because of all the effort you're putting in. But then you're in the 5th grade and, I meditate without any problem. I treat, but no problem. See? It's the same thing. Right? Let's go back for a couple more things. Okay. So the purpose, I think there's a few main purposes, and one is to build a consciousness of the divine as infinite. This is important because anything I'm seeking already exists. It may not exist in form, but it exists as a possibility, or I couldn't seek it. So it's not like I have to create anything. I just have to actualize from potential to actualization, which is what I'm doing anyway. See, I just want to focus in a certain direction. To build a consciousness of myself as having a divine nature. We're human beings. We have one foot in the physical realm and one foot in the mystical realm. And we often neglect the mystical side. or we don't think it's real, or we don't think it's as valid. And in fact, that's what's driving the whole operation, is what's happening on the invisible side is what's driving what's happening on the visible side. To use that consciousness of the divine as infinite, of myself as having a divine nature, to govern my thoughts, my emotions, and my actions. I need to direct my thinking toward the way I want to think, so that I can let go and trust that my thoughts will go in a positive direction. The same with my emotions. Emotions are critical to the process. See, you know what they call someone that has dominion over their emotions? They say that person has character. See, that's what character is. It's having dominion over my emotions. It means I don't have a hair-trigger temper. I don't fly off the handle. I don't fall down and cry when the slightest thing goes wrong. I'm able to direct my emotions toward a positive expectancy of good. And then my actions have to follow that. And initially, my actions are going to have to be directed until they become a habit. I'm going to have to make myself sit and meditate. I'm going to have to make myself do treatments in a proper way until I do it long enough and purposefully enough that I can let go. Okay? So for those that don't know, I have a blog. It's called New Thought Evolutionary. It's at .wordpress.com. And if you would like to check that out, that would be fine. You could just Google my name and it'll come up. I write about New Thought. I write about a lot of things about spirituality and leadership and things like that. And let's close with a prayer treatment. So I invite you to know this with me in consciousness. I know that Spirit is right here, right now, in, around, and through me and all of us in every way possible. There is no aspect of us that is separate from or in any way limited in access to Spirit. Spirit is all we are. So as we accept ourselves as spiritual beings having a human existence, we also accept our access to the power of Spirit to express our lives with joy, with success, with love, with good health, with all the things necessary to live a good life and to contribute to the good lives of others. I accept that this spiritual community is a divine idea in the mind of Spirit, and that we come together in order to support one another on our spiritual path, in our spiritual growth. We are here to give and to receive. We are here to support and be supported. It is like the respiration of the universe. We breathe in and we breathe out. We give and we receive. We give and we receive. We give and we receive. And I bless this center, and I know that it is blessed by all those who participate in it. And I invite each and one of you to select something right now within this prayer that you would like to see manifest in your life, and to see it as though it's done, and to feel how that feels for you. And to use that idea, that vision, that feeling to generate a consciousness of invitation for that good to come forth, knowing that the law will comply. Once you accept it, it is accepted by Spirit. So I know that this is so, and with deep and abiding gratitude for my access to this teaching, for all the good in my life, and most of all, for the realization of my spiritual nature, which deepens every day, I release this word lovingly into that creative field that we call mind, knowing it is done unto us as we believe. And together we say, so it is. Thank you very much. I love you. It's been so wonderful to be with you. I'll stick around for a little bit. So I understand there's some chat time afterwards. So. But it's getting into dinner time here in France. So I just have to point that out.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jim. That was really good. That was really good. I really appreciate you a lot. So let me set up the next. We get to have something really fun. Some of you might remember Uma from quite a few years ago. And stay on speaker view and go for, and Uma, you can start your music. She wrote a really neat song called Aformation. So start.
is everything always working out for me? Why do I feel oh so good? Why is everything always working out for me? Count my blessings every day. My children and friends make me smile. Life pulls me every which way, but I still say, why is everything always working out for me? Why is it all unfolding like it should? Why is everything always working out for me? Stuff all around me makes me blue. My mom says it's okay, honey child. She reminds me what I get to do. I say, why is everything always working out for me? Why do I feel oh so good? Why is everything always working out for me? Good in my neighborhood.
Yay, that was a good one.
Thank you.
Thank
Check
you.
it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you guys get a chance, go to my website too. It'll be released on iTunes and Spotify and all those cool things. I have TikTok and YouTube. Ojeda.weebly.com. It's
I'll
such a
put
pleasure
that.
to see you guys.
And she's going to sing another song for us at the very end. So let me again share my screen.